Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Cowboy Bebop 2021, Season 1 on Netflix. And I have my jacket out because this isn't this isn't really good. Now, when I was going my way through this before I reached the end, I was almost going to do a comparison of good adaptations of source material, this one, and then really bad adaptations. Like this one was going to sit in the middle. Because as I was watching it, it did have callbacks to the show. It did do them in slightly different ways, but at least retained somewhat the similar placing of where it was, whereas Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City just did fuck all whatever it wanted. And some characters, at least, were close enough to their analogs to not be complete insanity-inducing dumb things. However, they did go that route on certain characters. Like, the stupidity levels were kind of astounding. Not to the complete ineptitude of Leon Kennedy, but they got pretty close to that shit too. But after I got to the end of this, I was like, nope. Like, Game of Thrones adaptations in the beginning, before it got to the end, they knew how to adapt certain things and also somewhat slightly change things so that way it worked within the TV medium. The thing is, Martin wasn't able to keep up the pace with the show, and thereby they didn't have anything to adapt, so they had to write shit in. Why is that an important point for me to mark out? Because that kind of shit also happens in here. Somehow, they decide to do 10 episodes here and cram in a lot of different weird things and try and also color outside the lines almost, have to write in certain things because they try and write out more shit for Vicious, for Julia, for Spike. I don't even know what they were attempting to fucking do with Faye because she has a character assassination kind of thing that is pretty much on par with Leon, but I wouldn't even call her Faye Valentine because, god damn. And the Wheel of Time, there's at least close enough things that the adaptations work. This just kind of goes all over the place and then just frickin' screws itself over. It really tries to answer questions that it really doesn't need to, and not to the certain extent that the original creators of Cowboy Bebop, the anime, could. Granted, I don't even have giant, I have emotions with Cowboy Bebop, but it's not something that I'm completely and utterly invested in and, has formed me. I definitely understand its importance and think it's a very good piece. The anime movie, I could pretty much fight to be it's one of the best animated movies ever made, and that's just me being yeah, because of the animation quality, the soundtrack, the story that they're able to do, and that's also me being I like Studio Ghibli stuff too, like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, but that's another kind of time thing. I'm not coming at this series of being a giant fan and deep investment in the Cowboy Bebop universe. I like it. I think it's objectively good in what it has accomplished and what it does. And I was coming into this to be alright, what kind of adaptation will we get? Because Netflix and anime adaptations, live action, does not have a good track record, and this kind of proved it. Especially since they're hey, guess what? We're not doing a season 2 even though we teased it. That just came out, okay. I came in here thinking, okay, I was worried after every kind of thing that I was seeing. I'm okay, I thought of alright, there might be a chance that it can at least be good enough to be good on its own. And then I was seeing stuff and I'm maybe it could be so bad it's good and I could still find some enjoyment out of it. And then it just got to the end and I'm well, sucks to be here. Now, usually when I find something really good, I'm yeah, 2 thumbs up. When I find something that generally is able to do pretty well for itself, like, okay, one thumbs up. And if it starts going into other realms, I'll be like, Raccoon City was the first time I was like, this has to have double thumbs down. This one has like a thumbs down because Ein is at least correct. Like, it's a corgi, it looks like Ein, and it does dog things. Granted, they do fuck up some stuff about Ein as well, but not to the certain extent that it's like a cat. That's analogous to the face situation. The CGI for, like, the Bebop and the ships, that's pretty well done. That I enjoyed. However, everything else in relation to the set is cheap looking as shit. Like, every place you're looking at is like, wow, that looks like a set, that looks like a set. That's just really fucking lazy. That's just a regular house that's set in modern days. This is supposed to be like 2071 kind of shit. Granted, it was further in the future, back when it was in the early aughts kind of time period when Cowboy Bebop was made, and we're like, Jesus Christ, we're 50 years from... Ugh. Yep, getting old as a bitch. However, yeah, because there's one point where, like, Jet is visiting his ex-wife's house for visiting his daughter, and it's just a regular house. It's really fucking off-putting and really highlights the quality of the costuming. Now, granted, it doesn't look completely... Throughout the whole thing, it doesn't look complete cosplay level. Like Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, where it's like, wow, I've seen a lot of other cosplay that's been better. But it really threads that fucking line where it's like, that looks fucking weird. Especially Jet's fucking beard. Like, oh my god. The actor is able to pull off Jet's voice without sounding fake about it, and is able to, most of the time, until he gets into the parts where they make content and direct him to do shit that's fucking stupid. That's at the end. It's the fakeness of the beard that kind of throws you off. It's like, what the fuck? So, alright, how do we want to go about this? They kind of do some weird shit where it's episodic in certain instances, but still builds up to the confrontation throughout the whole 10 episodes of Spike and Vicious. So, one of the episodes towards the end details the whole kind of syndicate stuff that was going on, that they were pretty much like brothers. Vicious had saved him off the street. His, for some reason, name was Fearless. I don't know why they went with essentially like code names to a degree, but they're doing their shit. Vicious is a dumb motherfucker. Like, Vicious in the anime was to his name. Vicious. Alright? He did his shit. Now, granted, I haven't rewatched that to, like, deep dive and refresh myself, so if you've got any other kind of things to, like, add to this, go for it. But Vicious was not this level of incompetent. I questioned his ability to use a spoon in this. And also, like, what their writing is, because in that episode, we start off with Vicious talking about, like, pretty much getting straight razor shaved for his balls. I don't know why it's in here, but it is. And he just comes, we see him stabbing people, and, like, violence is usually his resort to thing for anything. But he's rarely ever able to really get his way, and I'm really wondering how he was able to survive. Like, if this Vicious was in the Cowboy Bebop anime, that motherfucker would have been taken out with no problem, and Spike would have just completely and utterly whooped his ass. Which also incidentally goes into another kind of critique I have, and that the action scenes and the choreography in this are not good. Like, there's no weight to the fights, and they try to copy the anime, and it just fails. There's certain even kind of like fight things that go on that you're like, okay, that person is just waiting for their turn to move. It's nuts. It's almost like an RPG kind of turn-based thing where it's like, I will put you here, and it's like, oh right, I gotta wait, I gotta dodge here, and then it's like, it has no weight, and it's just doesn't feel good. Like, as someone that likes action scenes and knows that they can convey a lot of stuff, it's just not really that well done throughout the entirety of this 10 episode run. And the only one that kind of goes to a level of John Wick is the one in the flashback episode that details the Syndicate stuff, where Vicious was supposed to talk with these cartel of Neptune for the diamonds, and he instead insults them pretty much to the point of being like, and fucking around and almost like taking someone's hands and stuff, and just making a shit show situation that they pretty much want that it doesn't work out. The capo that they are beholden to is like, you fucked up. So then they're like tooling around, and we see that they get to Julia. Like, they barely see her, and where she just sings once. It's like, all right, cool. And Vicious goes out with her. They're riding around. I don't even really see a spark between like Spike and Julia actually even working out. It's like, all right, cool. Vicious is being a twat because he fucked up a deal, and then they're dancing a little bit. You get this like picture that you see in the beginning of the season, and it's like, what the fuck? But then Vicious sees the dude, runs into him with his car, starts beating him, and kills him, which creates a situation. And then the capo's like, yeah, they want you, Fearless, to go and kill him. He goes, there's like, alright, I don't want to kill you, so he instead goes and kills the whole cartel and everything, which starts all that whole kind of situation. That action scene was a little bit better, but it's done continuously, and you're like on the outside perspective, and we see that Fearless spikes. One thing is like, no kids, because that's done in the beginning of the episode, but then he shoots a kid at the end, and it's like, why? I don't understand why he would do it, because I understand that the dude's like, oh yeah, it's war, if you leave one alive, they'll keep coming back. It's like, I don't even know if that girl was even fucking with him. I mean, yeah, she looked dirty, and she looked like she had kind of similar clothes, but it was like, alright, cool, I didn't really give a shit about this anyway. It's like, whatever. Then, of course, we see that they introduce this whole father complex with Vicious that wasn't in the anime, at least to my knowledge. And he's like, oh yeah, you're weak and everything, blah, blah, blah. Fearless did this and killed the whole cartels, you dumb fucker, and he's fucking when you're with the woman on the side because they got together and banged and everything, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna run and do this. And he goes to Anna to get papers and everything at this nightclub that Julia's at, and he's waiting for her. Vicious, of course, brings her in and says, hey, she's coming with me, she's chosen me, and then shoots Spike, and then it's like, oh, okay. He turns himself into Spike Spiegel, does that. John Chow's not, he could have been a lot worse, and there's certain instances where you can see a little bit of Spike, but it's down to the content and the direction of how they do it, and it doesn't work, you know. It more works with Jet until they get to the end where Spike has to deal with the whole Vicious situation, but it really doesn't work. So we see them doing their kind of stuff. We see like the red eye kind of thing. We see a teddy bear bomber thing going on. The Hakeem one really fucking sucked because for some reason he was going around killing people, and it's like he was just going after a data dog, and just he by accident gets a data dog because he's kidnapping all these rich people's dogs that pretty much he had been his family had like served these rich people before the gate accident on Earth, and that they left them there. They took the dogs and the escape pods, and it's really strange because throughout most of the episode Hakeem is pretty much modeled after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for his fighting style and everything like that, because Spike's kind of fighting style is modeled after Bruce Lee's. And we only get like the one fight scene with him, and then for the rest of it he's got this face changer that has him as this other dude, and I don't know why they did it. It's like, why do you have two actors for this role? Like, especially with this kind of scenario. The story was right there, and you make all these weird fucking changes for what? And then we find out that he just happens to get Ein as a data dog, and Ein kind of helps him out a little bit, and he was going to execute the dogs, but he couldn't do it, and they're like, alright, fine, we'll turn you in, you're worth a lot of bounty. And the cops just shoot him and be like, yeah, we weren't going to pay that out, and they just keep booking around. Faye, as the character, she is introduced early with the first episode, and is antagonistic towards him, and it's not Faye Valentine. Now, if you watch this and you like it and you've never seen the anime, cool. I don't want to take your enjoyment or anything out of this. That's fine. But this is not Faye Valentine. She is a sociopathic asshole who is just written to do one-liners. And it's really fucking weird because there's really nothing to her character. They try and do the callbacks to the anime stuff, but I never got like pulled into her, like, or even saw that they put enough on her to do it. Now, I don't really fault the actress. I think that they really miscast her, mainly just because, not because of her looks or anything, but they miscast her because they wanted her to act as someone else. Like Spike's wardrobe's pretty good, pretty close. Jet's same. Hers is as close as they could, and I get it. They tried to do kind of as accurate as possible. But the thing is, that's not even the worst bit. She does, like, I think the biggest kind of issue is that they don't even have the content of, like, Faye Valentine stuff. They have certain things, but they just try and make her spout, like, one-liners and shit, and she just doesn't work well for it. And the thing is, I'd probably have to see her in some other kind of stuff to see how well she acts on that. But this was my first kind of like big thing that I saw her with. I'm like, wow, I can't really judge her completely on it. I'm just like, she does not work as Faye. Not because of looks or anything. It's just how they had her act this, like directing her, giving her the content, and what she gives us, because at the end she's like, welcome to the ouch, motherfucker, and I'm like, granted, I understand actors have certain control over certain things and no control over other things, but I'm just like, I fight over that, because that's not really Faye. There's a little bit of that in Faye's character, but this is just all that she is here, and there's really weird things, because she does the eco-terrorist thing, which they even fucked that up, because for some reason they're able to use a terraforming thing to turn people into trees. Now granted, the anime doesn't get into the complete nuts and bolts of certain sci-fi things, but why in the fuck would a terraforming thing turn people into trees? That sounds like a fucking horrendous kind of thing that you kind of want done, because it turns people into like monkeys or whatnot, I believe, in the anime, and that at least makes more sense. It's like, but Faye's trying to get her identikit back so that way she can learn who she is. Now, granted, that is a big part of the anime, but she gets shot in the shoulder, and it's just really fucking weird because there's not a lot of damage, and she's not really acting like she got hit. And then she even just goes and randomly finds Spike and Jet in a restaurant, and then is like, yeah, I kind of need help. And she keeps going around the episode fucking with that wound. She's got a bullet in her, until it gets to a point where Jet's able to, like, take it out and actually provide medical assistance to her. It's like, what the actual fuck? Ed doesn't make an appearance until the end, and this is where I go that it's mainly, like, on the casting people for making their decisions, because Ed doesn't work here. Now, granted, I understand they tried to make her as accurate as possible, and I thank them for that, but it doesn't work, because it's also tied to, like, how it fucking works, because Ed kind of helps on certain things, giving him bounty tips, like this whole machine thing that was pretty much fucking with Spike's brain, and other kind of things going on. But at the end, she's like talking about Vincent from the movie, and I'm like, that happens at a point where all this stuff that we just kind of gone through with the whole vicious thing, because the anime goes in a certain order, and then at like 23 or 24 is where the movie can slot in, and the Bebop's all together. Here, the Bebop's all apart. Faye's gone off to find her identity. Jet is pissed off and kicks Spike off the Bebop, which he really wouldn't do. And never mind the fact that it really was kind of a leap that Vicious was able to kidnap Jet's daughter. How he was able to link that kind of stuff together, I'm okay, fine. Yeah, they're the Syndicate, they can get information, but it just, if he had that kind of information, he could have just fucking went after Fearless. If you're good enough to find other people connected to this person, you know, okay, story. Alright, if you're able to find out that this man named Jet is a partner of Spike Spiegel, and that they're on the Bebop, why would you not find the Bebop and attack the Bebop? Why would you go after and kidnap a little girl? Like, they wouldn't fucking expect it. It's like, it's really stupid. It's just like, fine. oh god, I don't have hate for the kid. They did what they did because that was the content they were given and that was the direction they're given. It's kind of similar to my whole kind of thing with Faye. I don't have any animosity towards her. They gave her that content, they gave her that direction, and that's what we got. So I'm like, all right. I just don't. Oof. Oof. And for some reason, they leave Ein somewhere, and Ein hooks up with Ed. Now, granted, usually they are together, but they just left the dog somewhere, and I don't even know where the fuck they left it to be able for the dog to be able to hook up with Ed, because Ed is usually in other kind of places. And it's just like, oh my god, why did you do all this? So, throughout most of the thing, Vicious starts getting rumors that Spike, well, Fearless is alive. Julia wants to get back together with him, kind of. Tries to make moves for Vicious to be killed. However, he doesn't, even though he's stupid enough that it should have worked. And Vicious then, of course, initiates the whole I will kidnap this child protocol because they decide to go with any kind of trope. And the thing is, I don't hate tropes. It's how you execute them. This whole... Yes, I did not try to make that kind of pun of like, yes, Vicious will execute the child. No. The whole kind of thing that we get down to is how everything is executed with this. Because normally you'd be like, okay, father kind of thing. Okay, kidnap a kid. Alright, it's how it's executed and how it's presented and how it's done. Because you can do these things in kind of original ways and kind of look at them at different kind of views. And even with the characters that are involved. This is just like, okay, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. And it's really kind of strange because there's already a plot that is very well constructed that you just have to massage into place to have the adaptation. No, they have to put other kind of things. So they pretty much get captured. They get out of the whole kind of like church thing. Spike has his fight with Vicious. And this is where it gets kind of weird. Spike survives this. In the anime, it is not as clear cut as that. There's people that fight for that he did survive. There's other people that fight that he didn't survive. Because the whole kind of philosophical underpinning of Cowboy Bebop as itself is, are you in reality or are you in a dream? Now granted, that is more of a philosophical thing that is bigger in the movie, but it is still a big kind of thing there. And it's played with that. And that's one of the great instances in an anime and in a story that I like that they're able to do that. Normally, I like better kind of closure elements, but however, the whole way of where that kind of ended was a closure for Spike Spiegel anyway. However, here, we have to have this twist that Julia's like, I want to take over the syndicate, and it's like, no, she doesn't say it in that kind of annoying way. She's like, oh yes, let's kill Vicious and take over the syndicate. He's like, I just wanted out, and I thought, you left me here, and you could have come for me at any time, and Vicious is like, yeah, I told him that you picked me. And you believed him? I'm like, lady, from what I've seen, I don't know how long your relationship was. He really didn't know you that well. Granted, they even tried to show, like, Julia's little kind of story, which we don't really have a time frame reference for, in that she sang in a club because someone was sick. Then for some reason, she's going out with Vicious, and then for some reason she gets upped to, like, headliner, even though we've only seen her sing, like, a couple times or whatnot. And, I don't really fault the actress because, again, it's down to content and directing here. She wasn't really as annoying to me as Faye, mainly because there wasn't as much character for Julia to murder. It was more like they tried to fill in character. It's like, oh yes, she's going to do this turn at the end and shoot at Spike, and Spike's going to fall out the window, and then we're going to do the whole eye thing, which we don't even have any understanding of why it makes sense, because if you look at that scene and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It's better well done in the anime, because in the anime, Spike has one eye that is an artificial one, and one eye that's a real one on the past, one on the present, and it shifts and actually works out better for what it's trying to convey there. This, it's like they understood that the scene occurred, but not the understanding of the meaning of what's in it or behind it. So thereby, they can't effectively execute it. And Spike goes down, comes back out. Faye has gone off to find out who she is. Just like, yeah, you lied to me and you got my kid in pretty much danger, even though most of the time you're just this kind of absent father figure to her, so her saying daddy to Chalmers makes sense. And he's like, if I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you. And that doesn't make sense to how Jet is as a character. They mainly do it because it's the trope kind of way to kind of do that shit. But, hey, fucking detail. So then Spike goes, gets trashed, falls down in an alley, and Ed's like, ooh, yes, you're the Spike Spiegel. We must go and stop Vincent because of the butterflies and shit. And I'm like, you don't understand Jack fucking squat. And you're thinking, how I almost wanted a season 2 to see how they were even going to try and do that. Not that I was invested or anything. I'm just like, alright, you kind of fucked this up. How in the fuck were you going to do anything after this? Because you've somehow gone through and done the whole anime in these 10 episodes. Because the interesting thing about the anime is that it is mostly episodic, so you could have done more kind of episodes and done them better with the episodic content and the threading of certain kind of plot things and story arcs for each character that eventually lead to a culminative point that we have an end closure point that doesn't give us everything we need, but it does have a closure for the story. That's a big thing because mostly it's figuring out a good kind of closure point for a story. I don't need everything answered, but I need something that gives you a kind of end that, okay, here we go. But that is not going to happen at this point, unless there's some kind of thing where people are like up in arms about it to try and get it. So if you were really into this, I'm sorry for that. I don't like that to happen to anybody. But they had no understanding of the anime at all with like its themes and messages, because the ending showcased that in its entirety. They had no understanding of what was going on. They had reverence for the anime as they tried to copy it as much as possible. And so that's why I give this a little bit of a nudge above Welcome to Raccoon City, because they're, at least as you go through this, you understand that they understand what Cowboy Bebop means to people, and they're like, okay, this is cool. They just didn't understand it whatsoever. This one was a really weird one, man. Like, at first I'm like, okay, these are weird things, really thrown off by the action and everything, thrown off by certain kind of things coming in to effect to be like, okay, this was actually from the movie, but they put it in here. This is kind of weird, alright. But when you start going through, and it's like almost Dante's Descent into Hell, where you're going through new rings as it goes through until you get to the end, and you're like, ah, shit! It's the fucking ice lake, and there's the devil! Holy fuck, I need to get the hell out of here! Now, I know I'm kind of weird on this. There are positives in here, mainly because there's a corgi dog, and I like Ein, and they didn't completely screw him up, but it's like, why the fuck is that dog able to do some of these things? Why the fuck is LeFou able to do this with this data dog? Why is there any kind of connection with this dog that he's able to do that? That was still kind of fucked up as well. It was weird because they tried to, again, color in the backstory of what's going on, and it just doesn't work. See, if you get into a place where I would not really recommend trying to flex your creative writing when you're trying to adapt to work. What I mean by that is, if you need to fill in a lot of shit for something, you gotta make sure that you can write your own shit that is at least on par with that you understand the writing process to try and kind of flesh out those kind of things. How it happened with Game of Thrones, what happened with here. And because adapting something and making something good are two different kind of things. Because, yes, while one, you still have that creative aspect of trying to figure out what will work within transfer between the anime medium and the live action medium, you still need to have the basic understanding of how to write a certain thing and what's effective and what works within the frameworks of what you're trying to adapt. It's why, kind of like the Wheel of Time, how you had to be careful, how it would have been, I would not want to try and figure out how to find another writer that would be able to finish off the Wheel of Time like what happened, because that was that sucked. The original author died, but there were copious enough notes, and they were able. His wife was able to find someone that worked out very well, and I'm like, okay, a little bit different, but it still works within the framework. You have to be able to kind of do that in order to kind of fill in the stuff with Julia and Vicious and Spike. And the only ones that really would have those handles on those kind of characters to do those kind of things would be the ones that made the anime. Or someone that had, like, really written characters like these characters, situations like this, asked these kind of questions, or what's real, what's not, how does the past affect you, and do you carry it, or you do not? Which, by the way, going back to Faye, that actually brought me back around to a certain way. Carrying that weight and the whole thing of the past, nothing really exemplifies their misunderstanding of that, more than Faye doing the line of, like, I will not carry that weight. It was more like, okay, they understand the importance that this holds, but do not get it whatsoever. Because it just came off as so shitty. Its execution was just piss poor. It's like, wow, okay, they said that, so fuck that. Because it's like Jet betraying Spike, and she's like, no, you did that, Matt, I can't carry that weight, and then moves on. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, there are ways that it could have been done, could have been incorporated and everything, but the whole thing is that, like, it's a stinger at the end. It's like, you're going to carry that weight. And the thing is, we understand that as an audience in the anime because we are shown the weights that people carry throughout the series without being told it. We understand how Spike's past in the Syndicate has affected him, and what he carries with him, and what he tries to do, and go with the flow. We understand that Faye's lack of her past affects her and changes her, and has her not have that understanding of who she is, which then is the weight that she carries. We see Jet having to carry being this ex-cop who was framed and everything for working as a dirty cop and everything, and what that entails, and how he tries to move forward, and how all these things and how all these choices culminate in who these people are. But then this live action just uses it as a line to think, they said the line. And you're going to be looking at me and be like, wait a minute, didn't you like when Captain America said Avengers Assemble? Yes. Because not every line is wrote down like that. It's down to content, context, execution. This was just like, these people didn't understand what that is, because you don't go throughout Cowboy Bebop and everybody's shouting, wait, carry that weight, motherfucker. That is not occurring at this. In Cap's case, when doing that, with like Spidey's case, with bringing up great power and responsibility, it's usually at those moments where it's key and we're getting there and it's earned. Captain America popping off and saying Avengers Assemble, fighting against Thanos, wielding Mjolnir like a badass. It is earned over the entirety of the MCU. So you could be like, oh, that's just taken from the comics. Alright, yes it is. But it is an earned moment and it is executed well. Granted, I would have thought that, like, Cap would shout assemble as well, so the delivery of the line I have quibbles with. But, again, that's a different kind of matter. You know what I mean? It's kind of within, but that's my own thing. Here, they don't understand the line and the importance of it. They just shout it out and it's like, okay, fan service. Fine. Poorly executed and poorly done fan service. So, to conclude this, I would not recommend this. I did it to kind of see what it was, because I like Cowboy Bebop. And I wanted to see what they could do with it. And they didn't do good things with it. Now, if you want to watch Cowboy Bebop, I would highly recommend the anime and the movie. 26 episodes, and a movie, it's pretty good. It's got good action, it's got good characters, got good story. This was somehow able to take that and translate it poorly, in my opinion. Now, again, if you like it, that's good. And if you want to recommend it to people, that's fine. However, I don't recommend it to people. That's just me. That's my opinions and how I see this thing. Because there's other things that have better characters, better development, better fight choreography, better sets that actually draw you into the world and aren't like, holy shit, that's just a stage. It surprised me how poorly they looked. It's like, alright, cool, you did all your kind of effects work on the Bebop, which, thank you, but holy shit. If that's the case, learn how to better manage your shit. I would have taken less technologically demanding things with the Bebop if you were able to make it look a little bit better on the other side, or be able to find a better cost-effective way to deal with that on the other side. So no, I don't recommend this. So those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.